What's up, everybody? Before you get into today's episode of Cosines and Tangents, I just have to shout out Anchor because it is by far the easiest way to start and create your own podcast. So let me explain. One, it is free. Also, there are several tools that you can use to record and edit your podcast right from your phone and your computer. Also, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so you can be heard on Spotify, Apple, and many, many more. And you can make money by doing your podcast with no minimum listenership. Ain't that awesome? And you have everything at your fingertips. It is so easy. So, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started now. All right. What's up, everybody? This is your girl, Saint Win. I may be your friend. I may be your foe. I don't know. But all I know is that I'm happy to be back with you all. This is my first guest. I have my first guest of 2023. Well, my second, technically. Even though anyway, I'm not going to get into all the semantics. I have my friend. We go way back, Jessica, and she is joining me because we may be switching some things up. So we're just gonna talk and get to know Jessica and just have a good day. So, Jessica, tell the world who you are. And
Hello, hello world. Sorry, Sana, you could just talk.
girl, go
Hello world. Like Sana said, we met back in our college days, so we've been friends for a while. I am originally from Memphis. I just moved to LA in October of last year, and currently I am a learning and development consultant. So what my job entails is I work with physicians and other management companies. We review the documents that hospitals send out to their members or the documents that physicians create, and we just review them to make sure they're up to date and the information that's provided in them is scientific and up to date and things like that. So that's a small snippet about me.
Okay. Well, I'm pretty sure we're gonna get to know more and more about you, and just how we came to be, and just how we're doing, and where we want to go. So, I first, before we get into the nitty and the gritty of who Jessica is, Jessica mentioned that she is a Memphian, and I'm a Memphian, and as the world knows, as this is being recorded, this is being recorded after the death of another fellow Memphian by the police. And I know we talked about this, just mentioning it or just talking about it. I know we said that we're not going to watch the video just because mental health is important to both of us. But I just wanted to make sure we did mention that and let our listeners know that our hearts and our prayers are out there for Memphis and for the family of the young man that passed.
Absolutely, absolutely. Not to watch the news too much just because like I try to do all I can to protect my mental health. I think ever since for me, I've had things happen in my past, like in regards with my mental health. So just learning from those things. But I think like in 2020, first with Ahmaud Arbery, and then George Floyd, and then all the other police shootings and things like that. I feel like that took a toll just on my mental health and other people just constantly seeing those images and videos just replaying and people sharing them and just everywhere you turn you were seeing them. So I think now I'm not desensitized to it. I still am sensitive to it and show my sympathies and things like that, but I have to find that balance of course, like being on top of what's happening in the world, but also protecting my mental health from those images and those videos. I think just the way it was described in the articles that I read, how he cried out for his mom and they took turns just hitting and kicking and beating this guy. And he begged for them to stop. And I think just for me reading it, I knew for a fact the video anyway, but I knew for a fact even after reading it, I definitely wasn't going to watch the video.
Yeah. And I know that I was watching, I watched a video put on by Amanda Seals, who I know can be kind of provocative because she really speaks in a way that is rough. She doesn't hold any punches. And she was talking about how that the narrative is being changed because they were Black officers
Mhm.
killing another Black person. And
Mhm.
I was telling another mutual friend of ours about how it has nothing to do with the race. To me,
Right.
it has a lot to do with the system that modern day policing is created from. And modern day policing is created from, as some people may or may not know, um, racism, slavery,
Mhm.
slave catchers were the police in that day when they were taught to beat Black bodies and to see Black bodies as nothing but chattel or a piece of property. And not saying, and I think for me, white supremacy and racism is a disease that has infected all of our systems in America, and policing is not immune to it. And I think that is shows a lack of I feel like maybe policing has ability of to make power
Mhm.
divorce a person's ability to see someone's humanity,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
you have so much power. You literally have the license to kill if it's endangering the lives of yourself and others that you are serving to protect. And so that mentality, having that power struggle over someone, that power label over someone can change your mind. Like we saw it in like the Milgram study, where
Mhm.
they studied how like people who were the prisoners versus the prison guards treated the prisoners terribly because they had that one label of power. And I
Mhm.
feel like that's just, if something we need to work on as well. So.
Absolutely. No, I agree. When I was reading a article, and I don't know, just from past experience or things that have happened in the news, I guess in my mind, I automatically thought, okay, darn, like another white officer has committed this crime. So I was like, I don't know if I was shocked, but I was kind of like disappointed to see that it
Mhm.
was Black men who did this. And then also the question that popped in my mind is, we've seen how like these white officers with these past issues that have happened with George Floyd, all that, they're not getting, I guess, sentences that our community feel like they should have gotten it. I'm sorry, I cannot think of her name.
Brianna.
Yes, Breonna Taylor. Just how they only get so many years in prison. They took this girl's life for no reason, and they just got a slap on the wrist. So now I'm wondering, how is this gonna play out? Like, are you guys gonna, not leniency is not the word I'm looking for, because what they did was definitely wrong. But how is justice going to be played out in this situation? Like, are you, what guys going to give like the harshest penalties that you can give them
Hmm.
because of their skin color? Or are you going to do the same thing, the same punishment that you've given these white officers, or just basically, like I said, a slap on the wrist, or they pretty much get away with murder?
Exactly. And because the thing is, I know I was talking with our friend that the city of Memphis has been pretty good handling it decently, where
Mm-hmm.
they're like, we know you're going to protest, but just please be as peaceful as you can. Because there's a Democratic, I think, mayor or governor. I can't, not gov, definitely not governor, because whatever. But they're letting people know that we know this is going to happen, and they're trying to do it a lot better than other places. I
Mm-hmm.
just hate that. And this is this idea and these words are, I feel like, are not it's not going to sound PC,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like, and I know what you're going for, like you're talking about how justice is served for whiteness versus blackness. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like, oh, we're going to punish the hell out of these black people, these
Yep.
black men, rightfully so.
Mm-hmm.
But then white police officers who have done the same thing, sometimes the law is not served in the same way. Now
Mm-hmm.
with Derek Chauvin, they did put him in jail. They did sentence him. I don't know off the top of my head how long he was sentenced to. So
Mm-hmm.
there is some justice, but I never see justice served for whiteness the same way it's served for blackness.
Absolutely. And I feel like too it's gonna be like a kind of, we're gonna make an example out
Hmm.
of these officers. And I mean I hope, like I said, they definitely need to go to jail. They definitely need to serve time. However long they give them, I don't know. But I feel like hopefully that won't be the case. But I feel like they're gonna try to give them like a extremely harsh sentence,
Hmm.
which I don't think is, again, they need to serve time. But if you look at the way that these white officers are only getting like 5 years in probation or 10 years for taking someone's life, like I said, I'm just wondering how this is going to play out as far as justice goes. Like, how much time are they going to give them? And I think so too, just from how they've described the brutality of it, how he's crying out for them to stop, crying out for his mom, and you guys stood there and you took turns punching this guy and kicking this guy and just relentlessly beating him. I just feel like it is not going to go well for them.
Yeah, it shows it's sickening because I feel like it also, if we're gonna play the race card with this situation and be like black people this, black people that, what about black on black crime? Because I
Mhm.
can hear white people talking. Oh, I let me.
It makes me sick. It makes me mad.
It makes me mad because it's also in the guise of respectability politics. Because you know
Mhm.
how black people are. We be like,
Mhm.
man, why they have to do this? Show out in front of a company kind of situation. You know
Mhm.
how we do that. Like the same thing we said with like Will Smith. You know, like he shouldn't have done that and outside of the family in front of all these white people.
Right.
And
Right.
so seeing, because I expect more out of black people,
Mhm.
to be honest. I expect the most out of us because the most has been always expected out of me. Therefore, anywhere I work, if I manage people, I'm expecting the best out of my people.
Right.
And I don't sometimes expect the best out of some white people because I know whiteness. I see whiteness. I live in whiteness. I work in whiteness. We all dwell so much in whiteness that we probably know whiteness better than whiteness knows themselves.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I know that white people, when they see this, they're gonna be some people on that side being like, well, I see, you see, they don't care about black lives themselves, and da, da,
Exactly.
da, and it just delegitimizes the fight, and it makes me angry
Mhm.
for us. And also it makes me angry at myself because I am judging my people through the lens of whiteness and white supremacy, and that is one of the problems.
Yeah, and I thought about that too, and I feel like again, what like piggybacking off of what you just said, some white people are going to be like, see, it wasn't a white officer that did it this time. It was black officers that committed the crime. It was black officers that committed the murder. And then to backtrack on something you said a few minutes ago, how I guess just how some people, when they have those positions of power, they feel like they can do whatever they want to. So again, like just policing as a whole, like how are these officers being trained? Because you guys approached this man already hostile,
Mm,
al- already worked up, already having this rah 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 energy, where to the point where y'all pulled him out the car and y'all beat him.
mm.
So what was going on in you guys' head mentally for you all to right off the jump just do this to this man? So like you said, policing as a whole needs to be revamped and done over the way that they're trained. Because yeah, I get, you want to approach people with caution. They want to train you that way, but something's wrong with the way, it's something with the way y'all being trained, and that's not right.
Yeah,
Because y'all are too overly, some of you are, let me
right. Because they're
clear
great
that up.
officers.
Yes, there are some great officers out there. So it's not all officers. I know there's one great officer that I actually met him on a cruise a few years ago, and he is phenomenal. Just as a dad, as a husband to his wife, so he's phenomenal. But there are some officers out there that y'all don't need to be, y'all should have became officers from the get-go, because
Mhm.
some of y'all probably grew up dealing with anger issues that you never addressed. So now you got your anger on and coupled with power, so now who can stop you? You are already dealing with anger. Now you feel like, oh, I can do whatever I want to now because I get this badge. So some of y'all shouldn't have been officers to begin with.
Right. And I agree with you because it's something, it's to this point where it's something sick in the system.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always the people. It could be, it's the people that can benefit off of a sick system.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I saw something on Facebook how like you have to practice to be a barber for 1,500 hours, whereas it takes like 500 or more or less. I'm not sure if that's the truth. I will have to Google it.
Mm-hmm.
And to become a police officer. And I'm just like, there is more hours
It's
in
crazy.
policing, in barbering, than it is in getting a degree to do hair. Not saying doing hair is easy, because you have to be a geometrist, a chemistry, and pop out everything.
Right.
But still, you have to be able to shoot a gun at somebody and not miss, or
Exactly.
whatever. So, and have the ability to problem solve in seconds, and you have to have the mental capacity and the emotional intelligence to not see a person, black, white, or other, as not human enough to have any sense to hold yourself back. And he was unarmed. I don't know the story. Like I said, I haven't read the story. I'm not ready.
Mm-hmm.
And again, mental health is very important to both of us. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to let myself settle, and then eventually find some information. But I just know that 5 police officers to 1 man, they all could not have feared for their life that much.
Absolutely. And like I said, I just feel like it was, y'all were already hyped up. Y'all, with this Scorpion unit, or, whatever they were calling it. I guess you basically cracking down on crime and making the neighborhoods of Memphis safe. But 5 guys, and then it's another thing too. I know you said you're not ready to read it. I think that's how I'm like, I'm not ready to watch the video, and honestly, I don't think I am, like I said earlier. But just just in reading the article, I think once they got out and started, I guess I don't know what happened. Then I think they tried to tase him or something. They pepper sprayed him or something, and he ran off, and they chased him. And somebody that stayed behind, were like, I hope they basically beat him. Like, I hope they kick his butt, or whatever they said. So you already had intentions. You guys already had intentions. I don't know. I just feel like it's so messed up for y'all to have done that.
Yeah.
And to be so young, and I think he had just moved to, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the way the article read, he had just moved to Memphis, because they say he moved to Memphis, I guess, to start a fresh life. So if that's the case, like, and whether he had lived there or just moved there, what y'all did was wrong. And I'm just appalled that they allowed themselves to get so worked up, so angry, that y'all decided it was okay for y'all to beat this guy like this.
Yeah. Well, I know we said we weren't going to talk about it, but damn, we had to talk about it. Apparently.
We had to get that out.
Yeah, we get that out. But again, my thoughts and prayers are with the family. Is Tyre Nichols. Oh my God, that's all I can really say. And I'm praying that Memphis can be the first to show a good representation and handle this with the correct care, and justice will be served properly. And yeah, just praying for us all.
Absolutely.
Well, Jessica, how's that? One hell of a segue we're gonna have to do right here. How are you doing? How is life in LA? What has been the transition? Because the last time I saw you, just to give everybody some background, like I said, like Jess said, we are friends from college, both from Memphians. But I felt like we got extremely close after we had a dear loved one pass, Tabitha. And then as the years go, we've just been growing in our friendship. And the last time I got to see your beautiful face was in Austin, Texas, where we did a friend trip. to commemorate the loss of that friend, Tabitha. So, how
Yeah.
have you been?
I have been well. I miss you guys. Let me just first and foremost say that. I really enjoyed that trip. But I've been well. My job is good, life is good. I've had people tell me, "Hey, you look and sound so much more happy." And I was like, I am. Because it's funny because I've been wanting to move to California since 2012. So that was like well over 10 years ago. And then just to actually like I was kind of like still in a shock, I guess, like when New Year's came, because I remember early last year, I was like, man, I'm ready to move, like I'm ready to go. And I think like maybe in 2021, which yeah, 2021, I had literally packed up my apartment, Sana. Like I'm living in my apartment, all my clothes packed up and everything, because I was like dead set on like I'm moving to California. Like I don't know when it's gonna happen, but I think I was just like, okay,
It's gonna happen.
yeah, I'm standing in faith that it's gonna happen. And then I eventually, as the year went on, I think I kind of got a little bit discouraged. I'm like, man, like it's October now. I'm still here, and what's going on? So I slowly unpacked my things. So now that I'm sitting here now, I'm glad things happened the way that they did, because I think one thing I needed to learn was a place won't make you happy. And I think I needed to learn to be happy in a even though they weren't the best circumstances at that point, I needed to be happy in the circumstances that I was currently sitting in, and then also have a change in whatever mindset I had, because if you can move to a new place all you want to, but if you move there with the same mindset, the same way you're thinking or whatever, what was the purpose of you moving? You still gonna be doing the same thing and thinking the same way.
Right.
So I'm glad things happened the way they did. But yeah, I love it here. First, the funniest thing. So I experienced my first earthquake this week.
This.
Yeah, it was a 4.8
Ooh.
magnitude hit in Malibu, which is like an hour away from me. And it's funny because when I called my cousin, because he lives maybe 30 minutes from me, and I told him, I said I had the most dumbest thought pop into my head. I was like, I don't know what made me think that, but anyway, my
Girl.
bed was shaking. I was sleeping. I woke up because my bed was shaking. So I thought I was hallucinating. So I sat up in my bed and I was like, why is is my bed really shaking? Like, why is it shaking? So I kept trying to like fall back to sleep and it kept shaking.
Mhm.
I told my cousin, it was so stupid of me to think this. I was like, dang, did somebody break in my house and they shaking my bed? Like, girl, ain't nobody broke in your house. Like, what are you talking about? So then, like, it stopped for a second, and then maybe 2 minutes later, it started shaking again. So I guess that was the aftershock. So like, when the second shaking started, I was like, oh, okay, maybe this is an earthquake. And then when I Googled, people had started like posting about, hey, did you feel that earthquake and things like that. So my coworkers were like, you're officially a Californian now because you've experienced your first earthquake. So yeah, it was an experience.
You have been christened into Californiandom.
Yes, absolutely. So I was like, this got me thinking maybe I just need to find a house to rent or something. It's just something about like being in a tall building and just like, man, like just the thought of going through an earthquake in a tall building, even in the buildings that surround mine, they're like 20, 30 floors. So I'm just like, I just couldn't imagine like experiencing an earthquake in a really tall building. I think it kind of scares me actually.
Yeah, and I can understand that, especially being like us Tennesseans. Like, now we have our own, big natural disasters, like
Mhm.
floods and what's that word, tornadoes. But
Right.
quakes are just something totally different that I don't understand, and because I've never experienced it. So, literally, your life was shook.
No, right. It definitely was. And I'm just like, because, and like you said, like in the South is you get the tornadoes, not the hurricanes, but the strong storms and stuff like that. And I was like, when it comes to an earthquake, you can't be like, oh, well, maybe I should go stand outside, because that ain't a good idea. Because the buildings start falling down, you really ain't got nowhere to go. So
Right.
it's just like, I feel like with a storm, you can be like, okay, let me go take shelter, or a tornado, let me go take shelter in a bathroom or something like that. So it's like when it's an earthquake, what do you really do?
Exactly. That I don't know. You're gonna have to find out. I was,
No, no,
I was
I don't want to say that. I don't want to.
like, look, there's some things that I have to do to collect myself, and learning about
Yeah.
these are not going to be it for you. I get it. Well,
No.
let's talk a little bit more about just like what kind of mindset were you in when you just packed up all your stuff? You just like, I'm tired of this shit and I gotta go, or you just like
So
faith, or just like you manifestation. What was that like? What kind of feelings did that bring you?
I think overall, I was talking to a friend about it. I was like, I can look back and definitely say it taught me patience. If
Mm,
I didn't learn anything else, it taught me to be patient. Because I think going through life, sometimes if we looking at what other people have going on, and they're getting ahead in life, and then we're doing all that we can, we start to question, like, dang, like, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing, or like, why is it taking me so long? And I felt like that for years, like knowing that I wanted to move here. And it's funny because the company that I worked for was a company that I had applied to right out of college. Like, I was
mm,
applying to them endlessly, and I just couldn't get a job here. So last year, I ended up applying for like a property management job, and so I stopped working with the state, and I had been with them for 5 years.
mm.
So that was a leap for me in itself, because I think sometimes we can get comfortable where we're at. We can be like, oh, we're vested in, or you have people who stay with companies 25, 30 years, even if they're not happy. But I've always been the type of person, like, when I'm not happy, I just need to move on. Like, I don't want to stay with a company and it's affecting my mental health or just how I feel about myself. Because it was getting to a point, I was showing up for work every day, and I would just have this feeling in my stomach, like, it's time for you to go. Like,
Yeah.
this, you served your time at this job. It's time to go. But I think it's always that fear of stepping out and be like, let's try something new. So I got the property management job, and then I was there for like 3 or 4 months. And then even with that job, I'm just like, oh, this is not for me. Like, this definitely isn't for me. So I ended up losing that job in July, like literally 2 days after my birthday. I lost that job. So it was like a punch to the gut. And I'm like, I just remember crying, crying, crying. I'm like, what is going on? So I was like, but like I said, looking back on everything, I just like saw how like God was with me every step of the way. Like, people just reaching out to me randomly, like paying my car note, paying my rent. Like, I always had food, gas in my car. Like, I never wanted for anything. Like, money from places that I wasn't expecting money from. Like, I'm getting checks in the mail. So like literally all my things were covered.
Mm.
Um, so then this, like, the recruiter from the company that I work for now, that I have been applying to for years, reached out to me. So saying that I didn't fill out no job application or anything. Like,
Okay.
I literally just sent her my resume. They got me the interview, my first interview, and then I had the second interview. Towards the end of September, of some organization that was helping me out, like, I could only get so much help because I don't have kids. So
Mhm.
I knew October was rolling around. I was like, okay, God. Like, it literally got to the point, I was standing in the kitchen one day, and I was crying. I was like, man, God, like, something got to shake. So then, like, people be thinking I'm crazy when I talk to them. I be like, I talk to God like I'm talking to a friend. So that particular day, I'm just like, okay, God, listen, this is what you wrote in the Bible, so you got to do what you said. Like, I didn't
Love
write this.
that.
Right. I didn't write this. You wrote this. So you got to do what you said you were going to do. So I had some money set aside. And like, when I first lost my job, I was going to use that money to like keep up on my bills and stuff like that. But God was just like, don't touch the money. So I didn't touch it. So then, like, towards the end of September, I was like, okay, like, October's running around. I got rent, car note, everything coming up. Like, I have to use this money. So I won't get behind on my bills. And again, God was just like, don't touch that money. So because I didn't touch that money, like, I literally was able to cover shipping my car, moving my stuff, paying for the movers, paying for my rent. Like, I had money to cover everything. So I think for me, it, like I said, it taught me patience, and like, my faith level is like on 1,000 right now, 10,000. So it definitely like increased my faith and my belief and things like that. So
That's amazing. That's an amazing story. Because this was all going on when we went to Austin, right? In August.
yes, yes, because I was asking you guys, hey, y'all know anybody's hurt? And I think I did.
Oh
I sent
yeah.
my
Yeah, yeah, I remember them.
Yeah, and I was, sending my resume to y'all, be like, hey, can y'all look at this? And what jobs do y'all know that's open and stuff like that. And I think I had the interview coming up and you guys were telling me, don't be nervous, just be yourself. And
Yeah.
you guys wanted to give me a practice run on the interview and I didn't want to do it. Cause I was just like, I don't know, I guess it was just like funny and weird with my friends.
Yes. And we were like,
Yeah. My
so
friend.
tell me about yourself.
Yeah, I was like, y'all put me on the spot, and I really don't want to do it. But
Oh,
I think like I really do appreciate y'all doing that because I really do feel like it helped prep me for the interview. And I think just like my current manager, she's just the sweetest person I've ever met. And I think that's one thing I can say about the team I work on and the company that I'm with, it's totally different. Like, and I know every state, city has this particular jobs where people just can be mean and spiteful and all that other stuff. But I've never, since I've started with this company, I haven't felt like a lick of stress or
mm,
drama or anything. Like everybody's just so nice, so respectable. And I just feel like the work culture is so much different here than it is in the South. Like I honestly feel like every job I had when I lived in Tennessee, it was just some form of toxicity at every single job.
well,
But I haven't gotten it here.
tell us more, like between like what are some of the biggest differences you noticed about Tennessee? Because I'm gonna tell you this, I'm going through some job shit now.
Yeah.
Like I went, like I was, what day was it? Thursday. Yeah, it was Thursday because I'm off on every Fridays. So I
Mhm.
get a call from my boss, and apparently I've been missing some emails that I didn't know that I was missing,
Mhm.
because there was a rule created where all these emails from this specific person goes into an automated box, because it's usually just an automated box. It's something we don't even need.
Okay.
But come to find out, they a lot of times when they email us, they use this email with the same person and the title or whatever,
Mhm.
and it's goes into the boxes. So I wasn't sending these messages, and like I would respond to some messages because somehow they would come to my box, and then I was like, okay, respond. And then so apparently they were like, she's just not answering our messages. This is $1 million thing. Da 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 da. And my bosses tell me that I'm getting written up. I have to get right. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I've been beat up this whole month. I ain't gonna lie. I talked about it in my previous part episode. I've been beat up this whole month.
That's
But, and,
insane.
huh?
I said that is insane.
Right. And so to get to work, and like, I've been family beat up, self beat up, and then work beat up. I'm just like, oh my God. I'm crying, I'm crying, I'm crying. Like, I'm just gonna say her name, Jay.
Mhm.
Jay, I'm crying to her. I'm not making any damn sense, but she's like, I'm just listening. I say, thank you. I just need you to listen right now as I cry.
Mhm. Oh my gosh. That's so stressful. I don't know what so for me too, I just feel like Tennessee, and I like I said, I've been knew it was time for me to leave some of the jobs I had, and then also just Tennessee in general. I was like, dude, I have a master's degree. Like, why is my salary only this? Like, y'all
Mm.
are literally paying pennies, but y'all want to charge 2, 3 thousand for rent and all these other things or whatever. I'm just like, that's not cool. But as far as the difference that I've seen, like there is no micromanaging. There's no somebody down your back all the time, like how you're unfortunately dealing with your job. Like, why haven't you responded to this email, or I haven't gotten a response to you. Like, when I was at the state, like I would get emails from a manager, like it had gotten to the point where if they sent you an email, I think it was either 15 minutes or an hour to respond. And if you didn't respond, you had to give an explanation as to why you didn't respond in that time frame. So it was little stuff like that. And I think towards the end of my like tenure there, I was starting to get really frustrated and upset and irritated because, growing up, my dad used to always tell me my mouth was gonna get me in trouble. So, I was like, my mouth may get me fired, from this job because I think one day I had it and the manager I currently had at that time, like we met on over the phone and I told him that I was like, you're on a power trip. Like I feel like you're on a power trip. And by the time we got that call, I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna lose my job because I'm just like, I just had to tell. I just had to tell him about it stuff like, because you're not gonna talk to me like I'm a child. I'm a full grown woman.
Mm,
And you're not gonna treat me like I'm some type of kid. Like, I show everybody respect that I meet, that I work with. I'm not gonna disrespect anybody, and I expect the same. And I think, I was already kind of agitated and frustrated, because I was already under a lot of stress, because one of my immediate family members got diagnosed with MS. And it was just kind of a shock to our family, because nobody in my family has that. And it's just like, where did this come from? Like, how did you end up developing that? And this family member is only a year older than me. So just to see them experiencing it and going through that, and just trying to get them situated, because they were living in another state, getting them back to Tennessee. So I'm already going through this personal situation in my family. And now I got this manager at this job that's literally down my back all the time. So I was like, oh, I need to go ahead and apply for something. So I kept it to myself, and I think I didn't let them know until like a week before. And I gave my 2 weeks notice, but yeah. Um I had to get out of there, because it's just, and I think, like I said, that's the difference that I've seen so far, is no micromanaging, nobody like sending you constant emails. Like, my manager's like, I just expect you to show up and do your job. And, if you need to step out, you need to do something, like, just let the team know, so they won't, be looking for you and things like that. She's always been like, if you ever feel like you need to take an extra hour, 30 minutes or something like that for lunch, let me know, or whatever the case may be. Like, she's extremely nice. Like, this is the most relaxed job I've ever had.
that's what's up. Like, and let's talk more about how jobs kind of not affect. Well, I feel like I make my job too much of my identity. Do you
Mhm.
feel like you made that was something you did back in when you were early working, or do you feel like this job is kind of part of your identity? Like, what are you doing to kind of like have Jessica and your job too?
I won't necessarily say no. I don't think I've ever made it my identity. Like, even when I was at the state, because I'll be at a job. Like, my first few weeks at a job, I know if I'm going to be there long term or not, or if I want to be there long term. It just so happened that I stayed with the state 5 years, and that was my plan. Like, when I first got there, within the first couple of weeks, I was like, this is not for me, because I think some jobs kind of they kind of market the position to you in a certain way, and you think you're going to go in doing a certain job duty and stuff like that. Then once you get to position, it's not what you expected, or it's not what you were told you were going to be doing eventually.
Mhm.
So year after year went by, but yeah, even in a position I have now, I still don't think I make it a part of my identity. Like, yeah, I have the background in what I'm doing, and I enjoy what I do, but I know there's the Jessica outside of work. Like, I like writing. I'm working on my website now. I like designing things. So I always work on my stuff outside of work too. Like, work isn't just my identity.
That's real good. I don't know why I still find that I struggle with dividing the two. I think
Mm-hmm.
maybe because for me, my job is a livelihood, like for everybody else. And so, like,
Mm-hmm.
if anything threatens that, I'm just like, I can crumble, which
Mm-hmm.
could means I have some bad planning. I need to do better planning my money. But still, I find that it's like jobs have always been, I feel like people always make it seem like a job's importance is like going to be part of your identity. I'm going to be a stockbroker. I'm going to be a lawyer. But I feel like we're trying to separate that now as a whole, as a people,
Mm-hmm.
maybe.
And I honestly, I don't like to give myself, I don't like to like go by titles. Like, okay, like my job title is a learning and development consultant, but that's not who I am. I feel like if I give myself a title, I'm limiting myself and limiting who I can become, or
Hmm.
who I am. I'm not just a consultant. I like fitness. Like I said, I like designing things. I like fashion. Like, there are so many things I like. So I never want to put myself into this box and say, oh, this is my title. This is what I do. This is who I am. Because I know that's not it.
Right. So is it because it feels like too limiting?
I think that, and then also too, like, again, like, I don't want that to become my identity, because I
Right.
think when we get so, and like you said, yeah, we all have to work because we have to make a livelihood. We have bills to pay. But I also look at it from a lens, okay, yes, I have to have this job to pay my bills, but there are other interests that I have outside of work. So I always want to be adamant about working on those because God forbid something happened to my job, or I'll have something to fall back on. And it wasn't just me just depending on this job to provide for me.
I get it. I get it. Well, so what are some of your goals now that you're out there in LA? Because I know you said because I know when you were applying for it, and let me know if you don't want me to say this, because I know it was kind of like a leap of hope. Like you went out there, it was 3 months, so you like, I'm moving, I don't give a damn.
Hmm. Yeah. So they've just been constantly extending it. So they extended it again. So like literally, I'm literally walking by faith. So and like I said, I've never been one to be scared. Like I might be like a little bit, oh, should I do this? Like it's kind of scary when you're doing something new. But when it comes down to it, like I'm not one to be scared to obviously pick up and move across the country or
Right.
whatever. So,
Literally.
right. So that doesn't bother me to do that or whatever. But eventually like, I want to get more into fashion.
Mhm.
So that's been one of my biggest things. So I want to get more into fashion. I mean, a lot of people probably don't know that about me, and it's funny because growing up, I wanted to do like designing clothes and all those other things. But of course, like my parents were old school. So, they try to encourage you to go after, being a doctor or a lawyer or something that, like a lifelong profession and stuff like that. But I was always interested, like I said, in fashion or whether it's interior design or things like that. I would go to my aunt's beauty salon, and I'm pretty sure if she had customers come into her salon and there were all these pages missing out of her magazine, it's because I was tearing them out.
You were so
Yes, I was tearing them out and taking them home, and I was creating my own magazine at home. So she probably like, what happened to all my pages? So I think now just going after those things, and I feel like just being out here is going to give me more opportunity to do that. And just to piggyback off of that, like I want to encourage anyone who has young kids and things like that. Like I don't know if damper, and I'm sure that's not what my parents were. What that's what their intentions were. They raised us the best that they could, like with what they knew. Um, so I would encourage anyone with kids, like, don't discourage your kids' dreams. Like if they tell you they want to be, I don't know, whatever it is that they want to be, like, they'll eventually figure it out. Like if they get older, changing their mind, or okay, maybe this isn't for me. Cause I'm grateful for my degrees and what I went to school for, because going to college, I met wonderful people. I met you, everybody else. But I just feel like I won't say I wasted. I think I had to stop thinking from the standpoint that I feel like I wasted time because one of my oldest brother, he's a doctor. So I
Mhm.
was like, okay, well, he's a doctor. I'm gonna be a doctor.
Right.
So it didn't happen that way, and I just feel like that wasn't in the cards for me. That's not what I was put on this earth to do. Like when it comes to like designing and clothes and all that other stuff, like it's like I light up. Like I can like look at stuff like that all day long.
And
Um,
I didn't know that fashion was something that you were so interested in until we talked earlier about doing this episode together. And
yeah.
I was like, oh, I didn't know you was a button fashionista.
I I feel like I feel like, and it's funny because you would think like most people be like, oh, like I get it from my mom. Like, no, like I feel like I get it from my dad. Like my dad will always be dressed to the T, especially like when he have on his suits, he have his cuff links, his tie, everything. Like my daddy used to dress. So I'm just like, I feel like I get that from him. And then also just a business mindset. I feel like I also get that from my dad. Like my dad, he had ways to try to come up with money, like not like illegally or things like that. He'd be like, okay, we're gonna go through this, we're gonna go through that. Like he
Yeah.
taught me the value of work, and I appreciate him doing that. But yeah, so yeah, I want to really pursue that and go after that. I know I'm into fitness and stuff too, so I'm still trying to figure that out, like what I want to do with that. So yeah, that's still in the works.
Okay. Well, I know we were talking about like how we both have a love for mental health and that was one of your struggles. Do you mind telling me, just telling us really, because I know your story. It's just some of the things that you went through and how did you persevere? What is the thing, something that it brought you strength as you got to the point where you're living in your present right now?
Okay. So just really quick. So for me, it started back like in 2018. So I've always been like since college, like fitness, going to the gym and things like that. So I ended up having to have like a minor surgery in May of that year. And they had gave me like I think it was like oxycontin, like pain pills. And I noticed like when I was taking them, I noticed that my mood started to change. And I think it was a combination of me taking those pain pills and also because I wasn't able to work out because of the surgery. So
Mm.
I noticed it felt like I slowly, and granted, I had never been through a depression, didn't know what I know heard of depression, but didn't know what it felt like what are the symptoms or anything like that. But I noticed something different about myself. So I stopped taking the pills, and then I just kind of noticed like it went from me I live like maybe like an hour from Nashville, so I already felt kind of like isolated.
Mm.
So it went from me like eating in my living room to eating in my bedroom. Like I ate every meal in my bedroom, watched TV in my room. So I was like really isolating myself, and I think like towards the end of that year, like maybe in October, it just like it got worse. And I want to share my story because I want people to realize don't be ashamed. Because I know some people are around here walking around with thoughts that they shouldn't be having, but they scared to tell people because they think they're going to be judged or people are going to look at them a different way. I'd rather you express to somebody how you feel, you get it out, you go get help in therapy, than you walking around here the way that you are and it end up coming to a head and you do something to yourself or somebody else. Like, don't do that.
Black community, because that's something that
Yeah.
I'm thankful for. I feel like in the last half a decade
Hmm.
have been really pushing that mental health
Hmm.
is a narrative that we as a people need to pick up and start writing for ourselves. And it
Exactly.
sounds like you grew in your emotional intelligence by like figuring out what depression was and how it looks like. But not to interrupt you, but yeah, keep
Oh,
going.
that's okay. So like towards the end of it, like December, like the thoughts I was having was just like bad thoughts. Like I didn't want to be alive anymore. I didn't want to live anymore. And it just felt like it just got extremely bad.
Mhm.
To the point like I was even scared to be by myself. Like I didn't want to be by myself. So of course it rains a lot in Tennessee. Winters can be really cold. So it felt like it got 10 times worse.
Right? Because you're in the
Jan-
house, that seasonal affective disorder
Yeah.
kicking in.
From January to February, it really got bad. So then, like March, one day I got home from work, and it started to affect me to the point, like, and I thank God for my manager that I had during that time, because any other job they probably would have fired me, like, because I was literally going to work, I would clock in on my computer, and I would go to the conference room and go to sleep because that's the only way that I could process the thoughts I was having or not deal with the thoughts. I slept a lot because
Yep.
it was like I was escaping from what I was thinking because I would get up in the morning thinking about getting back in the bed. I ain't even got ready for work yet.
I,
And
girl, that'll
I'm
be the only thing that'll keep you going. It's like, oh, I'm gonna come back
yes,
to this bed.
and
Okay.
go to sleep.
Mhm.
So I'm going to work, going to sleep, sleeping in the conference room. My manager will let me come sit in her office sometimes. There's one particular day, like I slept the whole day at another manager's desk. So the director even came up. He didn't say anything, so I guess maybe they had already discussed it with him. But anyway, I had got home that night, and it's just like this. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. This feeling just came over me and it was so heavy. Like I was like, I'm for to leave this earth right now.
Mm.
I was just like, what is this? And I got scared and I called my friend and she was like, hey, if you need to take yourself somewhere, she said, it don't matter what people think. She was like, you need to take yourself, you need to take yourself somewhere right now.
Mm.
So the hospital, I ended up going to Vanderbilt, but had to be transferred to this place in Murfreesboro. But me driving my own self to the hospital, that was like the longest drive of my life just
Mm.
because of the thoughts I was already having and it's just like they were just being intensified. And I think what kind of led led to that as well. I was seeing a therapist, and she had put me on this medication, and I had read that sometimes some antidepressants can intensify the thoughts that you're already having. So
Mm.
it would be times I would be laying in the bed and I couldn't even sleep because I was like, how can I describe it? I was already having these thoughts, but then it started being urges.
Mm.
So in my life or wherever the case may be. And I just will remember just being in a bed at night, just praying to myself, like, God, please just keep me. Like, don't let me get up and do anything or whatever the case may be. So that was like a scary part of my life. So I ended up having to go to that hospital. And we couldn't go outside. It was like just this big open floor with rooms around the floor, and you had to keep your door open at all times. So it's just like being in there for those 3 days, I'm just like, I don't want to be here. So I left there. I felt okay afterwards. But then it's just like somebody did triggered the depression again. Um,
Mm.
like the way I was feeling again. So I want to say too, like if you're going through a depression, don't be around people that are triggers for you. Or,
Yep.
get around people that's going to encourage you, help try to pull you out of that depression. So I ended up going to see another therapist, and I kept going back and forth about antidepressant. And another thing in the Black community, obviously, I believe in God. I talk about it all the time. But
Mhm. He's literally your homeboy.
yeah,
Like
he's my homeboy. Yeah, we like best friends. We BFFs. Like, we have to stop telling. Like my brother's a doctor, told me, he said, listen, God created people to make medication for people who deal with depression.
yes.
I mean, even Jesus dealt with depression in the Bible. So we have to stop telling people, especially in the Black community, just pray about it.
Hmm.
Just pray about it. Because I had someone telling me that, and I was like, what you think I've been doing for the past year? I've
Right.
been praying about this for the past year, and nothing seems to be it's keeping me afloat, but I need something else. So I ended up taking one. But I can't say before I took it, I did pray and tell God, like, hey, I don't want to be on this medication long term, because with some antidepressants, if not all, when you have kids, you can't breastfeed.
Mm.
So I was like, okay, God, I want to get married. I want to have kids one day. Like, I don't want to be on this long term. I was on it for 3 months, and you're supposed to talk to your doctor if you're ready to get off of them, and they can wean you off. I didn't do that. I wouldn't advise anybody to do that, but I didn't do that. But I slowly weaned myself off, and I haven't been on it since 2019.
Oh, that's good, girl.
Yeah, so I just had to find ways. So for me, it's not just when people be like, "Right, like she's always working out or whatever, talking about healthy food." No, because that's what helped me. It's not just one or the other. It's not just antidepressants. It's working out. It's eating right. It's taking your vitamins. It's watching what you consume visually or through your ears, like the stuff that you listen to. Like, all of those things play a part. In just your overall being.
Hmm. And it's like medicine. Like
Mhm.
people think like, oh, you can stop once you feel better, but you still have to
Have
continuously
to.
take and keep taking your meds, even if that's like working out, um,
Mhm,
writing in your journals,
mhm.
doing your therapy. You have to continuously maintain your mind because, like, just like your body, your mind requires maintenance. You have
Exactly.
to continually like feed it, water it, and do everything you have to do. And like as you talked about in the Black community, literally I had the same thoughts because I started mine is anti-anxiety, and I
Mhm,
started mine probably in 2013, I think,
mhm.
off and on. But I've been continuously on it since 2020 because what happened 2020, everybody went through a midlife crisis slash life or death crisis slash agoraphobic everything. And so I was stuck in Memphis. Not stuck, I don't want to say stuck, but I was in Memphis for 6 months because my mom got sick, got COVID. She ended up getting a toe amputated, several infections, and it was just hard. And I was the same way. Sleep was my homeboy. Like,
Mhm.
I would wake up, take care of mom, try to do some work, then I will slowly fade into the background. It's like I'm just gonna take a nap on my lunch break, and then nap turns into 2 hours, especially under a heated blanket, which was like a hug that
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Absolutely. I have
Man,
a weighted blanket.
that way. Oh, girl, I do both. I have actually. I'm so old. I sleep under 3 blankets, girl. One, you got your top blanket, which is your decorative one, but under
Uh-huh.
that blanket is my weighted blanket, and then
Mhm.
under the weighted blanket, there's my heated blanket because as the weight is pressed down around you, you feel like you have a body hug. So,
Yeah. I would suggest that to anybody. Like, people probably be like, oh, that probably no. I feel like for me, like, it did work. Like, I had read up on things that could help with depression, stuff like that, and a weighted blanket was one. And I think the one I had may have been like it wasn't 60 pounds. It couldn't have been that heavy. Maybe like 20, between 20 and 40 pounds.
damn,
I would look, I got the heaviest one. I said I need the heaviest one. I also purchased a sun lamp, and I think I purchased it off of Amazon. So it kind of like it's supposed to mimic the brightness of the sun. So on the days that it was cloudy or rainy or snowing, I would have it sitting right next to me. I would, when we were working in the office, I was carrying it from the office home to home back to the office. Like, I had it with me at all times. So that really helped me as well. And then I want to say this about mental health too, like you said, like it's just like our physical health. Like, when we work out and things like that, I think sometimes it's really easy for people to hide their mental health things because it's not something tangible. It's not something we can touch. You look at somebody's body and they have like a bruise or a scar. You can see that. You can see it heal. But when it comes to your mental health, that's encapsulated by your skull and by your skin. So nobody can see your thoughts. Nobody can hear your thoughts. But you know what you're thinking. You know what you're feeling. And don't sit around in it. Like,
exactly, and that's
go get help.
oh, sorry, hon, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. I'm good. I'm good.
That's why I created the podcast, because one is like, it's my thoughts and it's out there, but also I feel like there's a lot more people that think like we thought, like we thought we were alone in our sadness and in
Mm-hmm.
our depression and our fight to want to be here and to want to stay. Because I had suicidal ideations too, and that's just fucking scary. Where you just like, I'm okay with not being in this place
Mm-hmm.
anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that is hard, and I want my vulnerability and our openness, like you being vulnerable now, like your story is amazing, and how you push through. And I want people to know that, hey, your voices are not only, you're not alone in
Exactly.
struggles. And
And again, like, again, just going back, because people are scared that people are going to think they're crazy. Or so I would rather you go get help and tell somebody how you're feeling, what you're thinking, instead of you walking around here crazy for real because you didn't get it out, and you just walked around and you held this in because you were worried about the opinions of other people. Me opening up to a therapist, me opening up to my close friends, telling them what I was thinking, like even some of the thoughts I was having. Like, someone told me, it's good to, no matter how bad it may be, you need to get it out because it's like it's like it's leaving you and you're releasing it. So I'm grateful for the people that I was able to confide in and
yeah.
express how I was feeling. Like, I'm extremely grateful for them. But I think that really helped me to get through the period I was getting through because I had that tribe of people around me, and I just got to the point I didn't care what people thought about me because I wanted to walk around here healthy in my right mind and just live a good happy life. So I mean, you could have all the things in the world, all the money in the world, but if your mental health ain't what it needs to be, you can't fully enjoy it.
You be on the outskirts, be like not seeing beautiful things and then not enjoying it because you're like wondering why, because something is in your spirit and your mind and your chemicals in your brain and body are just thrown off. And talking about it, getting the medication, eating right,
Mhm.
working out is all about a balance and a homeostasis of like having your mind
Mhm.
just not necessarily even, but just just still bump pounding or beating at the right beat for yourself to keep going.
Exactly. And I was talking to someone the other day because that, and like, people can do what they want to do. I don't judge anybody. Like I can only talk to someone and give them advice and just share my experience. Like this person, like they like to smoke weed and stuff like that. And okay, yes, it's just a herb, but I'm just like I feel like if it affects the chemicals in our brain at the same time. Like for me, like I be honest, I've smoked weed a few times, but like when I was going through my depression or even before, like I could drink some wine or whatever the case may be, like, or it could be some hard liquor. I remember one time when I was like maybe at the onset of going through the depression, which I didn't know that's what it was. Like I would like literally have a bottle of wine at home by myself. I don't even bother pouring it in a glass. I would drink it straight from
Girl,
the bottle. I was like taking it to the head. I'm just like, girl, you got to stop this. So I mean, like even now, like I try not to. I don't even say I try not to. Like I don't keep alcohol in my house because the conversation I was having with someone, I was just like, why would I do that? And I know that that was a trigger for me in the past
yeah.
because it's like, be like, oh, it's harmless. I'm just having a drink here or there. But then you find yourself like, okay, I'm only going to have one glass tonight. But now you ain't got up 3 or 4 times to refill that glass. Before the night over, the
One
whole
glass,
yes.
but and a refill. Several times. Yeah.
Like by the end of the night, the whole bottle's gone. So it's
Yeah.
just like, and then you fall into this. I was like, I don't want to fall into that trap. Like if you or anybody, any of our other friends come to visit and we go out, yeah, I have a drink or two. But as far as me keeping it in my house, I don't want to do that.
And that's okay because you have to understand your triggers. Because I know with me, as a person who struggled with her weight for all the time, I don't keep real sugar in my house. I have coconut sugar, and I've had like, I keep like honey, but I don't keep like sugar. And
Okay.
like if I buy cookies, I try not to buy the big packs unless I'm just really in a mood. That's when I know like my emotions and my depression. Because my therapist told me about. I was asking her about my overeating, and she
Mhm.
was like, "You're chasing that dopamine," because I was recently diagnosed with ADD, and
Okay.
you're chasing those dopamine, that dopamine when you eat something that made you feel good, you're getting that feeling, and overeating helps trigger that. And I was like, oh. And so
Mhm.
now I find myself being a little bit more aware of like, okay, why am I eating? Or like what enjoyment? I try to think about what enjoyment am I getting out of this and maybe look for it in other ways, like dancing or doing something physical. And it's not a 24-hour switch. It's something I work on every day, and then I might fail at it one day and then try again.
Mhm.
Learning to give yourself grace is one of the things, like real grace. I think we got to the point as a people that we like, you gotta learn to give yourself grace. But no, you really have to learn and apply grace to yourself.
Yeah, yeah, in real
That's
life, for real.
We get so used to platituding ourselves, but we forget that a platitude is only a platitude unless you put it into work. And you have
Mhm.
to work on yourself. And it's an active thing every day.
Exactly. I was thinking about myself when you were like and dancing. Like that's one thing. I like sometimes like I don't feel like going to the gym, and again, in that moment, said give ourselves grace. And because I think sometimes with me, for instance, people be like, Jessica's always, and my brother, one of my, so it's 10 of us. So when I always say my brother, I feel like I have to specify. So I have 5 brothers and 4 sisters. We have the same. My third oldest brother, he said something to me one day, and I was like, man, like you're right. He was like, do you? He said, I feel like you're always smiling and you're always laughing. He said, is it because you try to mask like how you're at? And I told him I used to be that way because I feel like I had to be strong for everybody. Like my dad passed away like going into my senior year of college. Like that was like a really tough time for me, and I was just taking stuff from everybody else, but I felt like I still had to walk around with a smile on my face, like as if nothing was wrong. And I think people are used to that. So if they would call me or reach out to me and I may be having an off day, like I'm not angry at anybody, maybe my emotions just are a little off, they would immediately get offended or upset with me as if I'm not human to feel sad sometimes, or I'm not allowed to like I don't know, not be depressed, but like Huh?
to emote, just to actually
Yeah,
have those.
just to I used to me always smiling and laughing or being the one to give like a word of encouragement or advice. Like even now I still a lot better than what it used to be, but I had to start putting up boundaries because people were like still trying like even to this still
Mhm.
trying to do it because I think for me, I felt okay. If I move across the country, it's not going to be as bad. But I feel like when I moved, I won't say it got worse, but it was still happening. And I was like, no, I can't do it because I protect my mental health. Like I love whoever it is, but I have to protect my own mental health, and I can't be everything for everybody. I have to be for myself first. And then
Right.
whatever I have extra overflows out, I can give that to others.
And girl, we're at our time, but I still know that's something we could definitely talk about in the future, because I put a post on the Facebook page for Cosines and Tangents, the wonderful podcast that you're listening to now. So go join it, Facebook, Cosines and Tangents, and that way you can get to know some other listeners, some other fellow cousins. But I asked them because I was talking to my family, and there's just been a lot of family stuff going on, and
Mm.
I felt like I am a control freak that didn't know it, especially when it comes to my family. And I was like trying to figure out, because like my brother was in the hospital and everybody just seemed real like laissez-faire about getting things done, and I was
Mm.
trying to get some things done for the house. And I'm just like, what's going on? What is going on at this house, y'all? Are y'all okay? Because I just the energy that I'm getting is real, where the energy at. And so
Mm.
their reaction made me finally realize that I have to uphold my boundaries to myself.
Yep.
And that, like, even if I have to uphold my boundaries with my families and myself. And I
Mm.
found myself like wanting to save my family all the time. Like, because
Mm.
I know I can do it. I'll be like, come on, y'all, we can just do this and get this together. We could be fine. We could get out of Memphis. Y'all can come to Tennessee where I am, and or AK Georgia, and we could just like get it together. But then also the other part that's trying to preserve me is like, girl, shut the hell up. They are grown. You
Yep.
cannot save people that don't want to be saved, or they might not need to be saved. They are where they want to be. And if they're happy or they're content, you can't force people out of that mode. Because I'm like you, we talked about how we would damn near give our whole lives to make sure one person family is okay. And that's
Yep.
not okay, because it's okay to actually take care of yourself for yourself and not for others.
It's absolutely because I think I'm not gonna let nobody else run me in the ground. Like I got a whole lot of life to live, and I got stuff
Right.
that I need to do. So I can't allow you to run me in the ground. And I think I looked at it from the standpoint that even with me, like if I get phone calls and somebody's asking for advice, or I feel like I've had the same conversation with them 50 times at that point, and it just dawned on me. I was like, man, like when I finished talking, I've said the same thing to you at least 50 times already. So now, are you not? Are you not only still in the same position that you were in because you're not taking heed to the advice that I'm giving, but now I'm also drained.
Yeah.
So what are
And
the
they
what are the
think
both of
anything
us?
to you.
Huh?
I said they're not giving anything back to you.
Exactly. So and then the thing to and I think the thing that I keep in the back of my mind is like when I what I went through with my mental health back in 2018. And I actually sent out like a group text to like everybody, like in my family, like, hey, this is what's going on. This is where I'm at. I think out of like all my family, two people responded. And I
Oh,
think that hurt me because I'm just like, man, like some of y'all are part of the reason why I'm in this place mentally. And for me to tell y'all this is what's going on with me and for y'all not to say anything back, that really hurt me a lot. But then even here now in this present moment, like sometimes I only hear from some family is when it's a crisis or they need, and I'm just like, no, I can't. That's what got me in the place I was in. Partly what got me in the place I was in 2018. I'm in a new city, in a new state now. Like, I'm focused. I'm just like, that following me. Like, I love you guys. Like, if y'all, if it's in my power to do it, to provide whatever y'all need, I'll help. When it comes to my mental health, I'm protecting it at all costs.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause it's like, and one thing I've enjoyed about one, not just getting older, is just getting my emotional vocabulary expanded
Mm-hmm.
and understanding where these triggers are, why a certain a trauma, or understanding that is not a weakness. Because I feel like a part of our culture wants to label these things like traumas and triggers as a buzzwords and dog whistles, and try to delegitimize them as truths and be like, oh, you're just being weak. No, I'm being strong, motherfucker. Like, the fact that I can talk about this, the struggles that I've been through, and then I'm still here today, is
Exactly.
is a pillar of strength. And not to down anybody who's not in that space yet. I just want people to hear conversations like this, to know that, one, why are you worried about what other people say, when, unless you tell them? Like, how people gonna know you
Exactly.
in therapy unless you tell them? If that, like,
Exactly.
everybody's gonna automatically know once you start saying you using boundaries. Well, they might know. They might know. That's a buzzword.
It is what you just, especially like when it comes to depression and things like that. I was like, I feel like into some people who haven't gone through won't fully understand. I said I equate depression to like some, you get into a fight with somebody, run blocks away from them, then two or three other people join them. Now you're fighting them off. You running another 5 blocks. It's a, it's
That's
tiring. It's tiring, and you have to fight. Like when I say I, that year that I went through that, like I felt mentally, not just physically tired. I was just mentally tired because just having to get up and fight those thoughts every day, and because it even got to the point, like, why do you keep letting me wake up every morning with these
Mhm.
thoughts?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it was to the point I was like, God, I already you not let me wake up. Let me wake up and keep having these thoughts.
yeah. I had like, I was more the passive side. I'm like, Lord, yeah, just please, just put me out my misery. I won't know it. I won't feel it. And that's when
Mm-hmm.
I realized that I needed some help. Like, I, like you, I was like, I told Jay, and she was like, I said, I think I need to like a 72-hour hold, just to kind of reconfigure my mind, because I don't feel right. And she's like, that's not a good thing, bro. I was like, what are you talking about? Just to sleep, maybe get some meds and some intensive
Yeah.
therapy. And then like she was like, no, that's not what you need. And then that's when I took FMLA.
Mm-hmm.
And funny thing, because I worked in FMLA and didn't take it until I was
Wow.
about to be like, peace out. So,
Well,
but
I'm glad that you fought through and you continue to fight through. Like it is like a every day thing. Like sometimes some days are better than others. Like I don't feel like I'm definitely not in that place I was in 2018. Like I know that I'm completely out of it, but I have my days where my emotions may be a little off, or whatever. But in those moments when I'm feeling like that, okay, I know that okay, on that particular day. So say like I was feeling like that Tuesday of this week or whatever. I'd be like, okay, you need to get up and go to the gym, or even if you don't want to go to the gym, do 20 minutes of something in
yeah,
your house. Like get up, be intentional to get up and do something. Like I ain't even started like getting in the kitchen more, making stuff from scratch. So this week I made like biscuits and everything. So like I'm like getting in the kitchen, because I feel like for me that's another form of therapy with me. Like I don't have music on or anything, like because it took me a while to get to a point where I can just sit in silence just from going through that scary episode of the thoughts I was having. But
yeah,
now that I'm in a place where I don't have to have music on, I don't have to have a TV on, and I could just be in the kitchen enjoying my time by myself.
yeah. And it's amazing. Like, I do that. I have to test myself, because a lot of times I know when I'm also super stressed, like I don't want to be in silence,
Hmm.
just because sometimes silence is very deafening. And
Hmm.
but now, like, I do like this Miracle Morning thing by Hal Elrod. So I'm trying to get back into that where it's called savers, where you pick a time in your day, like it could be an hour when you wake up or anytime, because it's based on your schedule, where you sit in silence, you do some affirmations, you do some visualizations, you do some exercise, some writing, some reading, and then writing or scribing, and it's called savers. And like, and that's something I did like last year pretty consistently, then I fell off. So I'm trying to get back into that, where I'm making sure to take time for myself, to enjoy myself, enjoy the silence, and writing, and just doing stuff that's for me, like really taking my self-care as a priority.
Yes, I would definitely say do that. And I'm gonna say this last thing too. Please get out and get some sun. Whoever, like when I say just being out in nature, like being out in the sun works wonders. Even back in Tennessee when I was going through all that stuff, like even on when you just get outside, period, because even on the days it was cloudy, some coworkers and I, we were like use our 2 15-minute breaks, and either we would take them separately or put them together as a 30-minute break, and we would just walk around the parking lot together. So just getting out, getting fresh air, like when I say it will work wonders for you. So even if sorry, you can only start there, like that's better than anything.
I agree. I agree. Well, girl, we went over a little bit, but I ain't mad, and I think our listeners won't be mad either, just because it was a powerful, beautiful conversation, and I look forward to having more with you, because you gonna come be my co-host sometimes, a little bit, kind of, maybe.
Yes. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, that was kind of I've been trying to lead people to letting them know I did an episode, kind of introducing the idea of a co-host, because I feel like, one, you're amazing, and two, I love having a person to bounce things off. Also, as an accountability partner, just because there was days this year, this just starting out this year, that I'm just like, I'm not finna podcast anymore. I don't want to do this, da 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 da. But then there will be someone like you who will pop up like, girl, I scheduled our episode. Or somebody will be like, when you gonna do some more episodes? So I've listened to all of them. I was like, oh, okay. Right. Okay. So not only me wants to do this. Let me satisfy people who need this conversation. So I'm looking forward to seeing where we're gonna go. I know we're gonna do some planning soon. But yeah, I'm just excited to see what we're going to do together, madame.
Same here, same here. You're such an amazing, awesome person, Sana. So I'm honored
Yes, girl.
to be here doing this with you.
Yes, ma'am. Well, tell the people where they can find you, and we could just wrap up the show, and then we'll start working on the next few shows.
Yes, so you can follow me on Instagram. I haven't posted in a way. I usually I try to take the beginning, the first month of this year, just to regroup and just set a tone for the rest of my year. But you can follow me on Instagram at jessica.d.jones. No, sorry, Jessica. I haven't been on Instagram in a while. I say, no, hold on. I gotta get on there and see.
I will put your all your socials in the bottom of the notes description.
Okay.
Yeah, just be on the lookout for more co-sides and tangents. What were you saying? I think I was cutting you off, huh?
Oh no, I was looking. Okay, yes. So you can follow me on Instagram at jessicad.jones underscore, and then also at the rundown with Jess, and that's all together. And then I have 3 Instagram pages, and then my last Instagram page is the Jessica Jones Collection. So
Yeah.
I haven't launched it yet, but I want to start out with just blog posts until I'm able to get the items that I want to start selling on my website. So it is going to start out with just blog posts. So I hope to have my first post up next week.
All right. Well, I will make sure to hold you accountable, because
Thank
that's
you.
what I do, and
Thank
make hold me accountable to put this episode out on Monday or Tuesday.
Absolutely. I will be texting you.
Yes, ma'am. Make sure you send me just their bio and the picture, and we'll get this baby out here for the world to listen to. And as always, Jessica, I love you, and thank you so much for being on my show, or our show now.
I love you more. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to what we get to accomplish together.
Same here.
Well, everybody, you have a great night, day, or wherever you are, and bye bye.
Bye bye.